The honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise to speak in support of Bill C-290. This is legislation that strengthens the Public Servants Disclosure Protection Act, which provides whistleblower protections to federal public servants. The Public Servants Disclosure Protection Act was legislation that was shepherded by the previous Harper Conservative government in an effort to restore public confidence in the operations of government following one of the biggest corruption scandals in Canadian history, the Liberal sponsorship scandal, a scandal that involved the waste, mismanagement, and misappropriation of hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayers' money as part of a quid pro quo scheme where Liberal insiders received advertising contracts in return for employing Liberals, fundraisers, organizers, and so on. These contracts were awarded to firms who did little or no work, and millions of dollars was funneled into the Liberal Party as part of this scam. And it truly was one of the biggest scandals, and it really shook public confidence and public trust. And so, in an effort to restore that trust, the Harper government passed the act that provides a mechanism by which federal public servants can bring attention to wrongdoing in a confidential way, including establishing the Office of the Public Sector Integrity Commissioner of Canada, as well as other measures to protect civil servants against reprisals. Madam Speaker, this bill builds upon the Conservative government's whistleblower protections by expanding the definition of wrongdoing to include political interference. It expands the powers of the Auditor General in taking disclosures of wrongdoing and undertaking investigations, and it expands the scope of those who are protected. And it does other things as well, which have been mentioned in debate on this bill, all of which are positive. And I have to say that this bill couldn't be more timely, given that what we have seen over the past 8 years from these Liberals is an unprecedented amount of corruption, waste, and mismanagement. And in that light, it's not a surprise to learn that the Liberal government, based upon the Parliamentary Secretary's intervention, is less than enthusiastic about this bill. After all, we have a Prime Minister that was found guilty not once, but twice of breaching ethics laws. Unprecedented, never happened before until this Prime Minister arrived in office. This is a Prime Minister who obstructed justice to protect the corrupt SNC Lavalin, a Liberal corporation. He fired his Attorney General when she called out his corruption. We recently learned that the Prime Minister obstructed an RCMP investigation into his potential criminal wrongdoing in SNC. And there is, as we speak, an active criminal investigation into the Liberal government's $54 million ArriveCan app that better be known as Arrive Scam. It is $54 million of taxpayers' money that went out the door for an app that doesn't work, that cost 500 times more than it should have, not to mention well-established evidence, of collusion, price fixing, and fraudulent billing to the tune of millions of dollars. And just when you think you've seen just about enough of Liberal corruption, there's always another Liberal scandal, and we're learning of yet another Liberal scandal at the Liberal Green Slush Fund, Sustainable Development Technology Canada, SDTC. Whistleblowers came forward with evidence of wrongdoing, prompting a third-party investigation. That investigation, in which forensic accountants went in, resulted in a report that is damning. The report concludes that tens of millions of taxpayers' dollars were handed out to companies who did not qualify. More than that, there have been multiple instances of conflicts of interest at SDTC. Just to give you an idea, Madam Speaker, $38.4 million improperly went out the door as part of so-called COVID relief expenditures. Of those companies that received $38.4 million, based on the audits that took place, 29% of those companies involved conflict of interest disclosures on the part of board members at SDTC. And not once did any of those board members recuse themselves. So dark is the cloud at SDTC that even this spendthrift Liberal government that has spent more, run up the biggest deficit in Canadian history, doubled the national debt, even this Liberal government put a halt or put a freeze on spending at SDTC. Madam Speaker, the cloud at SDTC, involving tens of millions of dollars, conflicts of interest on the part of a board that is chaired by a Liberal insider, a friend of the Prime Minister, underscores the need for why robust whistleblower protection legislation is needed. And many whistleblowers reportedly would like to come forward with further evidence of wrongdoing at the Liberals' Green Slush Fund, but are reluctant to do so. Those that have also are concerned that they could face reprisals because, as it stands, they are not protected under the Public Servants Disclosure Protection Act because they are not within the definition of what is a public servant under the Act. And although this bill does provide some additional protection to contractors, it would not protect employees and other whistleblowers at SDTC who would like to come forward. So, Madam Speaker, I would submit that while this bill is a significant improvement, we would like to see it to be even strengthened further to include contractors and those who are at arm's length of the government to be fully protected. Because the sordid affair at SDTC, the Liberals' Green Slush Fund, underscores that in order to shine a light on the rot and corruption that is so embedded right across this government, that additional protections are needed to root out waste, mismanagement, and corruption. Because, Madam Speaker, no one, no federal public servant or contractor or anyone for that matter connected to government should feel intimidated or be concerned about potential reprisals for speaking the truth and calling out waste, mismanagement, and corruption. So, Madam Speaker, on that basis, I support the bill, but it could be improved. Thank you, Madam Speaker.